Hi, welcome to the podcast where we discuss the ups and downs of starting a new business in later life. Today we are talking about the battle most later life entrepreneurs fight privately, looking strong on the outside while self-doubt and overwork slowly erode the inside. My guest is Kellan Fluckiger of Master Your Monsters, a best-selling author and creator who spent 40 years in high-pressure C-suite roles where silently battling depression, addiction, and self-sabotage. If you've ever wondered why success doesn't silence the inner critic and why confidence gets harder, not easier with age, this conversation will speak directly to you. So Kellan, right now, people see a best-selling author, a musician, a creator. But for the listeners who are kind of just like you, who look successful on the outside, like you were when you were in corporate, but maybe on the inside they are sort of falling apart. What is the one thing do you want people to know about that private battle that went on inside you?
There are several things. One is you're not alone, because that circumstance is more common than you might think. For me, it was terrible. It included addictions and suicide attempts and a lot of disastrous personal behavior, failed relationships, and all kinds of stuff. And in 2007, that was after a 30-year career as a big shot. I was making enough money that my $3,000 a week cocaine habit didn't matter. I had a divine intervention in August of 2007. It was a series of events over a couple of weeks that didn't fix my life or anything, but it woke me up. And I realized that I had to just do something completely different. So I walked away from very lucrative positions, lots of money and so forth, and started over. But I didn't just start over. It was like an absolute bang your fist on the table, shout from the rooftops, I'm done. I'm going in a different direction. I got no idea how to do this, where it goes or whatever, but it ain't that. That's where it started. And it needed to be that kind of commitment because change isn't easy. And you don't have to jump off a cliff and build your parachute on the way down like I did. You can build a ramp, but you have to expect that it's going to have challenges and struggles. So number one is a firm commitment.
It's being completely and utterly determined to want that change, to want that something different.
Burn the boats, like the story. You got to burn the boats, like I'm going. I don't have a plan B. I am going. That's what I needed to do.
What kind of a depth did you need to hit to get to that conclusion? Or at what point could people realize that when they are burning up inside, that this is just really not the right way to go? Do you have to go to the rock bottom to find yourself?
No, I did. I don't know rock bottom. I was still making all that money, and I was a complete disaster. I was single again. I'd been married 3 times, and I had 4 teenagers. I had 10 kids. 4 of mine were living with me as a single dad. 3 were married and 3 were with one of the exes. I was a crappy dad. I just finally realized this isn't who I am. And so you don't have to be in an earthquake or have a fire burn your life down. You just have to get to a point where you say, this isn't who I am. And you don't need to know the answers because you're not going to. Think about it this way. If I'm going to climb a mountain, the view from the trailhead at the bottom looks like whatever it looks. When I get 100 meters up, it looks different. And when I get another 100 meters up, the view is different. And so you have to keep going if you want to get the view to change. You talk to other people. I had to get lots of counseling and coaches and all kinds of stuff. But the fuel was, I've lived this other life. It sucks. I'm not doing that. And I had all the glory, cars and houses and all that crap, and it is not happy. More of it didn't fix anything. So you can start wherever you are right now, but you have to be willing to tell the truth. Are you happy? Can you see yourself living like this for the next 20, 30, the rest of your life?
Yeah, like yourself.
This is as good as it gets,
Like you spent 40 years in these high-flying roles, and you just sort of detailed to us that you were battling all sorts of things. One you haven't mentioned yet is the untreated depression, in addition to the addictions and technically self-sabotaging. But it begs the question, like, why are we chasing money if excessive amount of income leads you to this kind of alive. But do you feel like you were sort of performing for someone else in these positions with all those issues going on?
I was living someone else's goals. Absolutely. I was the poster child for this is what you're supposed to do. And if you do that, you're cool. So I did it. I did it with a vengeance. It doesn't lead to happiness. You have to decide in your heart who you are and what you want to be. So there were two things in answer to your first question. One is a firm determination. And the second is you have to learn to love yourself.
Yeah, this comes up time and time again, doesn't it? Well, especially like I think most we meet with this sort of statement is when we are dating, when we are looking for our mate, is that you have to learn to love yourself, because until you do that, how can you expect somebody else to love you? But then clearly it relates to mental health as well. To have good mental health, you need to learn to love yourself and accept yourself as you are.
Yeah, I hated myself. I mean, literally and furiously, because I knew all my failings. I knew all the stuff. And I always had this idea, well, if anybody really knew, ... they wouldn't like me. They would hate me. They wouldn't want to be around me. So then it became an issue of keeping all this private and pretending and having this outside mask or persona. And that's a recipe for failure every time. You must learn, and it's a learnable process to love yourself. Unfortunately, we're not taught about that. I was raised with, you have to do this to be good. You have to do this to be successful. I said, oh, okay. And when it conflicted with what I wanted to be and do, I just assumed I was wrong.
Are you exhausted and running your business on empty? Discover health routines that give you more focus and energy. Sign up today by getting your free guide. The link is in the show notes. Yeah, we kind of very much get brought up by society's rules. Of course, there's a few of us who kind of break out of that, like especially like entrepreneurs certainly tend to be the kind who's like, no, I'm not going to live by society's rules. I'm not going to climb the corporate ladder. I'm going to do something to make a change in this world.
100%. Yeah, I didn't know what I was going to turn into. I was going away from, if you're thinking NLP, away from toward, I'm leaving that. And I don't know where this road goes, but it's not that. But I was firmly committed, and there were a series of divine things that happened when I started moving. So between a firm commitment and starting on the road to learn to love myself, I began to make progress and to be serious about getting whatever help I needed to fix or change the things that had led to where I was.
What were those things?
I started going to counseling, first of all. I had to do some rehab stuff to help with understanding addictions and counseling and coaching and so forth. And here's what happened to me, and I think I see it happen a lot. When we start to change and we start to overcome or get past the barriers and self-sabotage that we had before, there rose up in me, and almost every single person, the desire to help other people. As soon as you start getting better, it's like, wow, I could help somebody with this. And it's part of our natures. We just do that. And so in exploring that, then I thought, how can I do that? And I don't know, maybe, what is that? Maybe that's coaching. So then I started exploring that 3 or 4 years after 2007, maybe in 2010. And I also started writing. I hadn't been a writer before that, but I felt compelled to start writing the discoveries and the learnings to be of assistance.
Yeah, to help people find themselves just like you did.
Exactly. That's exactly why I did it. And now I've got 22 books and 3 or 4 more on the drawing board.
I was about to ask you, so what does confidence look like for you today? Like the way you never did before when you were in corporate life, or even at the height of your success?
What does confidence look like?
Yeah.
I absolutely love myself. I live the ultimate life. It's so funny. I ask people, well, what do you really want? And they're like, a little more money, a little more time. They say the typical things. But when you dig down in there, people don't even know. And how I define the ultimate life is the life that I love every single day. I can't wait to get up and be in it. It's a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. And it's not woo-woo crap. So I live every day excited to get up. I have no obligations. I have only commitments, because I intentionally get rid of that, because the word obligation almost always carries the seeds of resentment. Oh, I have to do this. And it always means I'd really rather be doing something else. So I look at everything and say, if I'm not committed, I'm not doing it.
When you get to the point when you realize that instead of saying, I have to do X, Y, Z, if you just rephrase it a tiny little way that I get to do this. Like I personally get up in the morning and the first thing, as soon as I'm conscious, I put on a smile and I go through what I yet to do today and any day and say, oh, I get to do this, I get to do that, I get to help people, I get to put a message out there, I get to do all sorts of amazing things because I choose to.
So the two things that I have done since in the last now 18 years, since that radical change, is I've created a document. I call it a PTAC, Personal Truth and Commitment Document, and it defines my terms, nobody's permission, nobody's agreement. This is who I am in the universe. It's my contract with God, with the universe. That I said so. This is who I am. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, in order to make that real, what you were just describing, I have what I call a daily creation process, DCP. And I create myself every day. And I create it in line with those words and in line with everything, so that by the time I get done with that, and I love what you said to start with, because it has spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, SPEM, SPEM, I use that acronym. I am stoked. I'm ready for the day. Every person I meet, everything I do is like from that place.
That's awesome. And yeah, finding a purpose. I think one of the greatest sticking point for people, when I talk to them about the 5 main areas of health, spiritual health. For a start, people associate it with 2 things initially, either religion or meditating. And meditating is not for everybody, and not everybody is religious. But what people don't quite realize, that it's something that you've touched on a couple of times now, is finding your purpose. And that very much comes in that spiritual health remit, is finding your purpose in the world. What are you actually doing? What good are you doing in this world? And then, of course, you then align yourself with your values within that same area.
People think about purpose. I got to go find it, like they're going to go on a safari somewhere or dig it up in the yard or whatever. It doesn't come in an Amazon box. You get your you pick your purpose, and it's not hard to do. You have a set of skills. You have a set of natural gifts. You have a set of life experiences. And when you mix those together, I teach a process called the triple helix: your skills, your gifts, and your life experience. It's not hard to choose a purpose that lights you up. You can create that from those 3 things. It isn't going to come down like a comet. It comes from your skills, your gifts, and your life experience. And when you choose that and you decide, yeah, you can adjust it a little as you go, because it's like climbing the mountain. You're in a different place. And so you'll get a purpose, and that lights you up. And then the other thing is, it's not that hard to get paid, to get money, to create cash with that purpose. The most important gift that I have, or you, or anyone, is who I am, what I have become, the story of my own becoming, or your own becoming. That's the best gift we got. Everything else is like that thing over there, something maybe we learn to do, but it's nowhere near as powerful as the truth of our lived experience.
And funny enough, that is exactly where AI is not going to take over us as people, is it? We're going to always remain humans. But don't necessarily want to bring AI too much into the conversation, but that kind of just literally sprung to my head with that, because this is kind of topic of conversation nowadays with everyone, isn't it? So people can think that confidence kind of comes from achievement. And then there you were, you achieved everything that kind of anyone would have wanted, have a high-flying position, yet you still doubted yourself. So what were the practical steps that you took to rebuild your mind and, to change your habits and your self-trust?
The imaginary confidence that I had from being a big shot was fake. And the reason is because I was terrified that people would find out somehow what was going on behind the scenes. So that was all fake. Every person is an intentional, created being from love. You call God whatever you want. Well, we were not here by accident. You came with gifts and talents. You came with a purpose that you agreed to. One of the things I didn't mention is 11 years after that first divine intervention in 2007, in 2018, I died. I contracted a fatal illness and I flatlined in the ICU here in the University of Alberta in Edmonton. And I had a near-death experience. I had 3 conversations with God at the door between life and eternity. And one of the things I learned there was that something I already sensed, and we all kind of know, and that is that we're intentionally created. We're not accidental. We do have a purpose that we not only agreed to, but we were excited about. And we have the gifts and talents to not only accomplish it, but have fun, enjoy it. And that all the help we need is available from both sides of that door. So in that conversation, after I listened and learned those things, I said, well, why do we settle for crumbs? Since that's all true, how come we settle for crumbs? And I don't know if in the economy of heaven, brevity is a virtue, but the answer was 4 words. Because you don't believe. You know,
well,
I didn't face palm.
The thing is, you don't have to believe in God. You have to believe in yourself.
No. Yes. You have to understand and believe that you are intended to win. You're intended to succeed. And you might have to crawl over some broken glass, and maybe you had a rough start, and maybe this and maybe that. But that doesn't have to be the end, right? We all have this playbook that it's supposed to be easy. And I'm not saying a person's got to join a certain church or do a certain thing, but you have to understand where you came from. And every person listening right now, you have felt that at some time in your life, and you know it. And if you choose to follow that feeling and explore it, whether you meditate or not, whether you pray or not, I don't care what your spiritual practice is, follow it.
Yeah. Some of you will want deeper, faster transformation. And that's why I also offer a 3-month one-to-one mentoring package, and that is tailored to your business and life. You will find the details in the show notes. For a later life entrepreneur listening who is exhausted, maybe overworked, quietly questioning their worth, literally what we're talking about, what is the smallest but most powerful action do you think they can take today to break that cycle?
Go stand every single morning in the bathroom in front of a mirror and look in your own eyes and set your timer, your clock for 5 minutes, your phone or whatever, and look in your own eyes and say, I love you. And if you need to list reasons, I love you because you don't give up. I love you because you're still here. I love you because you're committed to adding good to the world. And do that to create a connection between you and that truth. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is stop being afraid or choose to be courageous about doing the thing you know you could do. So many entrepreneurs, they start a business, and this all happened when I was 52, so I wasn't 30, and I've been working on it for 18 years. We avoid the things we know that would matter. And instead, we busy ourselves with busy work, things that are safe, that don't require exposure. And this has to do with loving yourself, because when you love yourself, you don't really care what other people think. You're offering something from your heart with love, and you've stopped worrying about whether or not people are going to like you, heart you, come say, oh, you're so cool. You're just offering a thing. And when that comes from the truth of your experience and you don't quit doing that, which is easy to do when you're being who you are, you will create clients. I don't care what your business is. You will create it. I have learned that. In fact, my business plan is really simple. Drives my accountant nuts. I never look for clients. I look for people to love, opportunities to serve, and problems to solve. And clients come in abundance.
Wow, that's really powerful. You said sort of 3 very interesting things here. Can I just go back and pick through each of them?
I'm all yours.
So the looking at yourself in the mirror, that's something I practice. Why do people find that so incredibly difficult? I mean, it first started for me when I was doing teacher training and I was teaching teenagers. I don't do kids. Kind of like they're a different kettle of fish, really. I had to go into the toilet on the way to the classroom every morning when I taught to do the power stand and say in the mirror to myself, you can do this. And that was what got me through my teacher training course. But my goodness, did it build my confidence. Why do people find that so difficult to talk to themselves in the mirror in their own privacy? That baffles me.
Well, we've been taught from the cradle almost that we're not good enough. Shut up. Quit crying. Quit this. Don't that. Your grades aren't here. Grades, friends, betrayal, habits, secret things you don't want people to know, unkind parents, crappy teachers, that pile of stuff starts the first minute we breathe. And so we have this incessant pile of things that point out where we're short, where we failed, where we don't cut it, where we're below expectations or whatever that is. And so it's no wonder that we don't like ourselves. I had a client once who I gave him that assignment, and he came back to the call next week, and he said, holy crap, I'd rather put my hand in a meat grinder than to sit there for 5 minutes and say he loved himself. But he kept doing it, and in 2 months, he came back and said his relationship with his wife had completely changed. His estranged daughter was on her way back into, connection and so forth, and it had changed his world, and he didn't do anything to them. It was a question of him believing by stages that he was okay, that he was worthy, and that he could quit apologizing for breathing. So I think it's hard because we have all of that stuff poured on us from the get-go. We're not taught, and we don't learn to take the actions to scrape off the dirt.
When I started over at 50, I learned the hard way. Now I know that health routines are the backbone of business success. So now I help other entrepreneurs do the same. Explore the Routine Club via the link in the show notes, because a healthier you makes a wealthier you. Amazing. That's what a story that is. It got me all emotional, to be honest. We do need to believe in ourselves. And when it comes to business, even more so. I mean, I'm kind of working through these things right now in my life. It's the believing in, I do believe in myself and believe in what I do and love putting out what I do. But what you said about how the customers and the clients follow your own belief, that is a huge, huge lesson to founders, especially when starting up a brand new business rather than reaching into a lifelong experience that might have been sort of ticking alongside you.
You said you're becoming a coach. There's lots of people that do that. But no matter what you do, starting a new business, if you decide I'm going to go sell advice on how to grow tulips, okay, that's it. I don't know anything about gardening. If you go choose your purpose from the skills you've developed already, from your natural gifts, and everybody has them. We tend to ignore them or downplay them, but you have to identify them. And from your life experience, people don't go through a process to really look at those three elements and say, what is it that is I am unique at, really? And you'll find that when you marry those things, you do have something that you are the best in the world at, because that combination is so unique. And what happens is we hear those old voices of not this, not that. And so instead of going at that with joy and with certainty, because people buy certainty, and like anything, well, I think maybe I can, nobody's going to buy that. No one's going to buy, oh, okay, good, I'll give you a bunch of money for maybe. One of the things I do is I help people write books, their own life story, that journey, not any book, but that story of their life, because I've written all these others. And I wrote even a book about that, because that's the key. But I don't come and say, well, I think maybe I can help you do this. I know I can. And I talk to them and I hear some of their story and I'll say, well, this and this and this. I give them, create certainty in their own hearts that this can happen. And when people start feeling that, they haven't felt like that for a long time. Like I really can, just like, what you were doing to get through your class. When you believe it's possible and you're willing to take steps, you can help people create anything. So that's how I look at that is that loving yourself, that mirror work. I think that's one of the real critical places to start. And if you can't do that, work on it till you can.
Is that part of your mastering your monsters kind of teaching?
Well, it is. Master Your Monsters is a funny name because when we're kids, we believe, monsters live under the bed or in the closet or wherever, right? And they're going to come out and get us. And we grow up, we learn that there aren't monsters under the bed or in the closet. But even as adults, we have monsters. It's not my fault monster. The I have no time monster. The I'm not good enough monster. The, it's I can blame other people's monsters. The I don't like myself monster. And those come out and eat our lunch from time to time. So I created a course with the funny name called Master Your Monsters, because it talks about a dozen or so of those. I have no time, all of those kinds of things that we use as excuses for not being our best selves.
So what do you think that these monsters actually want from us? Or why do we hide behind these monsters?
Well, Marianne Williamson is credited with this saying, and I don't know if she said it first, but she said, it is not our darkness that we're afraid of, it is our light. We're afraid of the possibility that we can, that it's true, that we can do this. And we're afraid of that. You are divine. You have this ability. You can sit on your butt and do nothing the rest of your life and then wish you had. You're free to do that. Or you're also free to say, well, what if? What if I could? What if I was willing to put up with the setbacks and the fear? What if I was willing to get Ildikó or somebody as a coach? What if I was willing to get the help I need to make this happen? What if I was willing to do that? Where would this go? I have a T-shirt. I don't have it anymore, but I used to vacation a lot in Cabo San Lucas, which is Mexico. And there was a company there that took people on, dune buggy excursions in the desert and deep sea fishing and sometimes, riding over those dunes, dangerous. And the T-shirt said, die trying, not watching. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to die trying. I'm not going to die wishing I had the courage to get up and move.
Kellan, what a couple of quotes to finish on. Your insights have been amazing and really thought-provoking and literally like a coaching session itself. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
You are welcome, and I want to honor you completely, and I want you to leave this in the recording. Doing a podcast is a labor of love, and I want to thank you for the effort and energy and love that you put into the world to help people realize that they are all that. They can accomplish what they want to. So please accept my acknowledgement and gratitude.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to New Business in Later Life with me, Ildikó Sealey, where we say no to slowing down and yes to starting up. Loved what you've heard? Please share it, screenshot it, and tag me on socials. Let's show the world what thriving in later life really looks like and share with a friend who is ready for their next chapter. Please subscribe so you are always in the loop. And if you were ready to stop running on empty and start running on purpose, well, come join us. All the links are waiting in the show notes, including my guests' contacts, the Entrepreneurs Club, and the few tools and services I personally use in my business to help you thrive in yours. Until next time, refuel, refocus, and reinvent.